almost 20-30% of the global emissions had got targeted through the formation of Kyoto Protocol, but now almost 100% of the global greenhouse gases emissions have got targeted to reduce in such a manner that we would be able to cap 1.5 degrees centigrade temperature rise that is going to happen in coming few years. Hi, I'm Manish Dabkara. I am CMD and CEO at UK Energy Services Limited, that is anything international, which is one of the world's largest carbon credit suppliers. And you are listening to Understanding the Future podcast.
Hello everyone, I'm Punit Gandhi, Senior Associate with the Climate Center for Cities at the National Institute of Urban Affairs, and welcome to the Season 3 of Understanding the Future podcast. I have been working and studying in the field of sustainability and climate change for more than 8 years, and I have realized that I have a lot of questions on how we can build cities in India that are more climate focused. With Understanding the Future podcast, I interact with experts, entrepreneurs, and government officials to understand what it takes to bring all the different solutions to the ground, as well as how can systemic changes be developed on ground. We will further anchor all the topics being discussed with different skill sets required. This will help us understand the future of cities and future of work in Indian context. If you are tuning in for the first time, do check out our previous episodes. Also, don't forget to check out the Climate Practitioners India Network, a members-led solutions-oriented platform for climate practitioners across India. And join it through the show note. Hope you enjoy the podcast. Hello, and welcome to the Season 3 of Understanding the Future. I am your host, Punit Gandhi, Senior Associate with the Climate Center for Cities. And today we have with us Manish Dabkara. He is the CMD and CEO of UK Energy Services Limited. Today, he will help us understand the topic of carbon markets. Welcome to the show, Manish.
Thanks, Punit.
So I think first of all, we have just had one episode on carbon credits with indoor smart cities, but if we can contextualize well and help us understand what exactly does carbon markets mean, I think that will be a good start.
Yes. So, related to what is carbon credit, so if we do any business activity with the help of which, if we do either avoid emission of the greenhouse gases or absorb or remove any of the greenhouse gas from the atmosphere, then we are eligible to earn one carbon credit. So, in short, 1 ton carbon dioxide equivalent emission reduction from the atmosphere is one carbon credit, which is an environmental commodity, and that is traded globally, depending on if it's traded through the international treaties like Kyoto Protocol or maybe Paris Agreement, maybe traded within the domestic emission trading schemes, or maybe in the international voluntary markets. So the carbon credits, which is an environmental commodity, is considered to be the biggest commodity sector to grow in this century. Then the next question comes is what is the greenhouse gases, because we do have many gases which is there in the atmosphere, and what are all the gases which are really very important in aspect to the greenhouse gases. So there are 7 greenhouse gases that have been approved by United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, which creates the maximum impact over this global warming of greenhouse gases. In fact, one is carbon dioxide, another one is methane, then comes nitrous oxide, hydrofluorocarbon, perfluorocarbon, HFC, PFC. The last 2 gases are sulfur hexafluoride and nitrogen trifluoride. So these are the 7 greenhouse gases. If you do any business activity which helps to avoid or absorb any of these 7 greenhouse gas, obviously the base gas considered to determine carbon credit is carbon dioxide, And for example, if you are reducing 1 ton methane, then it is equivalent to around, so depending on the global warming potential, which used to vary. The different values used to be considered in different eras in the past. So as of now, for example, if it's 27 is the multiplication factor or global warming potential, then if we do reduce 1 ton methane, then we are eligible to earn 27 tons of CO2, that means 27 carbon credits.
I think this is very interesting to know, and if you can also like how did carbon markets come into picture to be evolved to this level that now we are trading this as a commodity.
Yes, so during the early 1980s, 1990s, it had been recognized by the researchers, the scholars, or the scientists globally that global warming is happening, and we should do something about this. So, department, or you can say unit under United Nations has been formed called as United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change during 1992. And afterwards, within Europe Propulsion, it had been discussed that we should limit the emission of the greenhouse gases, and there should be some an international treaty to reduce the emissions that we are doing. And so during 1997, after formation, that means 1992, there was the formation year of UN Propulsion, and then during 1997, a Kyoto Protocol. Why we call it as Kyoto Protocol? Because the meeting had held there at Kyoto, Japan, and that is why that protocol is called as the Kyoto Protocol. So under that Kyoto Protocol, it had been decided that all the developed nations are responsible for the global emissions, global warming, and they should reduce their emissions. And if they are not able to reduce, then they were allowed to buy the credits originated from developing nations under Article 12 of the Kyoto Protocol, and we call that mechanism as the Clean Development Mechanism. So during 2011, the agreement on Kyoto Protocol rules has happened as Marrakech Accord, and then actual carbon market has got started from year 2005. According to the Kyoto Protocol, the first commitment period was from 2008 to 12, and the second commitment period was from 2012 to 20. And we are like in year 2022, we are in this era where the Paris Agreement has been signed in year 2016, and the obligations, or you can say the voluntary pledges that had been signed or that had been declared by all the nations. We call it as the National Development Contribution Document. So it's actual voluntary pledges commitment used to get started from 1 January 2021. So we are now into the Paris Agreement era. So this two treaties called as Kyoto Protocol and Paris Agreement they had been given to the international agreements. Thereafter, we do have domestic compliance market, like since the developed nations from year 2005, they had all got the obligation to reduce their emissions. So various nations had formed their domestic emission trading scheme, because the government is not able to do the reductions. They're not able to mobilize all the reductions that can be done within the geographical boundaries or within the economy. So the domestic emission trading schemes had then got their positions to get developed. So from year 2005, one EU ETS, which is one of the largest emission trading schemes, one the most famous, most successful emission trading scheme Europe had got its position there. After New Zealand ETS had got its position, then California, then China, then South Korea. Recently, Indian government had also declared that we want to establish a domestic emission trading scheme. So these are all the compliance domestic schemes. Thereafter, the third regime, where the credits used to be sold through the voluntary pledges that had been taken by the various companies like Microsoft, because since Microsoft is based in USA, and they do not have any obligation to reduce the emission because they do not have any domestic emission trading scheme. And recently, during the 2021, USA had signed the Paris Agreement. So this formation of emission trading scheme, since it's quite complicated and takes time. So, for example, ITC hotels, they do not have any obligations to the to any domestic scheme, domestic emission scheme to reduce their emission. So, because of the voluntary pledges, many organizations have taken, because of those voluntary pledges, organizations used to buy the credit for their voluntary under the voluntary regime. So we call it as the voluntary carbon markets. There are various standards which do allow the project to be registered, to be verified, and then the credit needs to be traded from the seller to the buyers under the voluntary regime. So these are the three different options which are there in the for the carbon markets. One is related to the international agreements, then domestic laws, and third one is the voluntary pledges. So the whole international carbon markets historically has got developed from year 1992 with the formation of UNFCCC up to 2021 with the formation of the Paris Agreement. And the major difference, as you know, between this Kyoto and Paris is in Kyoto, all developed nations had been considered that they are responsible for the global warming and they should reduce the emissions, and if they are not able to do that, they are allowed to buy the gas from only developing nations. While in Paris Agreement, all nations, including India or China or Brazil or maybe all developed nations like US, Europe, all are obligated to reduce the emissions to meet 1.5 degree centigrade temperature capping goal under this specific agreement. So this is how under the Kyoto Protocol, almost 20 to 30% of the global emissions had got targeted to reduce those emissions, because USA has not signed the specific treaty at that point in time. So almost 20-30% of the global emissions have got targeted through the formation of Kyoto Protocol, but now almost 100% of the global greenhouse gases emissions have got targeted to reduce such in such a manner that we will be able to cap 1.5 degree centigrade temperature rise that is going to happen in coming few years. So this was the whole history of the international carbon markets from year 1992 up to 2023.
Thank you so much. I think that's very concisely was put it in all the different brackets, and that's very interesting to see as well. And I think the next thing that does come to my mind is that you've spoken about quite a lot of domestic markets as well, the lines of EUPS, and that came up in China and California and New Zealand as well. Now, what are some of the current programs that are widely used, and how does these programs function? What is exactly required to be able to register on these projects, to be able to use the carbon credits they have?
Yeah. So as we have discussed, like there are two different markets. One is the compliance market driven from international agreement or by the domestic law, and one is the voluntary market. So from year 2012 till date, the credits originated from India or maybe other developing nations, they do not have any accessibility to supply the credits to the international domestic emission trading schemes or to the international or other different mechanisms, whatever are there driven through international agreements. So we have only option to sell the credits in the international voluntary markets, and there are the most famous four different standards are there, so which we can apply to get our project registered, then annual verification, so that we will be able to get the credits. So the first program is CDM, that is a Clean Development Mechanism. Although the CDM, they do not allow new project registrations, but yes, whatever the projects that have been registered, around 8,000 projects have been registered up to 2020. We can get those projects into the verifications and up to 2020 only, and then you'll be able to monetize from the sale of carbon credits. The second program is the CDM program, where regulatory bodies UNFCCC, that is United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, which is located there at Bonn, Germany. Then second standard is VCS, Verified Carbon Standard, driven by the VCS board based at Washington, USA, and that comes through the Independent International Carbon Credit Standard. So we do have one compliance carbon credit standard. Although the credit originated from that compliance program called a CDM, would not be able to sell the same because there is no demand in the international compliance market. Now, with the formation of these more with the having more clarity over the Article 6 of the Paris Agreement, wherein we have two different options to sell the credits under Article 6.2 or under Article 6.4. But the 6.2 and 6.4 again, it will take around 1 to 2 year timeline to get themselves evolved. Like which kind of project you would be able to register, which kind of credits you would be able to export to be consumed, which may allow those credits to be consumed by the NDCs of the other nations. So the 6.2 and 6.4 in near future will be able to get this complete regulation requirement. Then comes the VCS and gold standards. So VCS is driven by VCS board based at Washington, USA, and the gold standard is based at Switzerland. So these are all VCS and GS, and the third one is BCC Global Carbon Council, having headquarters based at Qatar. So these are the three different standards. Although we do have many other different standards like plain Vivo, social carbon, REDV plus, various different standards are there, but these are some 3-4 most famous standards are there, which used to bring almost 80 to 90% of the credits in the international voluntary market. So these are all the different options that we do have. So each program, they do have different eligibility criteria in terms of which kind of technology which is allowed to get registered under a specific program. What should be the start date? Start date means whatever, maybe the date of commissioning or maybe the date on which we have made commitment to install the project or to invest into the project. So that date is called start date. So different programs, they do have different start date applicability criteria. So referring to the specific position of the project, we used to choose at which program we are allowed, and if some 2-3 programs we do have choice to apply in 2-3 programs, then which program will be able to get the best trade rate for us. That decision needs to be taken before application, before applying the project to get registered. Once the project is registered, the second step is to get it verified at specific frequency, say quarterly or maybe half yearly or 1 year, 2 year, depending on the types of the number of credits and the processing cost which is required to get invested to get issuance of the credits. And finally, once the credits are being issued, we need to find a buyer, sign contract with them called as emission reduction purchase agreement, sell the credit, get the revenue. So this is the different options and eligibility criteria, applicability criteria for a specific project in the process cycle to get the registrations and verifications, and then ultimately get the revenue from sale of credits. The means availing the carbon finance to get the project more financially attractive or to elevate the barriers which do not allow us to invest into any specific kind of technology. So yeah, this is the whole process that we execute for these projects located across the world.
Okay, no, that's very interesting. And so, if I can also understand a bit more on the lines of cost overview of all these different systems in place, and how will so, and especially from the verification point of view, every year it is being verified. I'm assuming a lot of local manpower would also be required in each country where it needs to be verified. So, unless and until that is there in India as well, it will not function. So, in that case, how is the cost outlay when it is being considered for cost band in which a project proposal is takes into account?
So for each program, we do have some 4 or 5 different expenses streams. One is to pay to the consultant or advisory companies like us. Second step is second expenses stream is to pay a third-party inspection company to whom we call as designated operational entity or validator or verifier, or in local language we call them as an auditor. So this is the second expenses stream. Third expenses stream is to related to the travel expenses, because all this the consultants like us or maybe third-party inspection companies, they need to do site inspection either at the head office of the company or maybe definitely to visit the site where the project is located. And the fourth stream is related to paying the registration fee to the regulatory body or to the carbon credit standard. And the fifth expenses stream is the issuance fee that we need to pay on each carbon credit basis to the carbon credit standard bodies. So depending like the cost of consultant, cost of auditor, travel expenses, they are like similar whatever the programs you want to choose. But the registration fee and issuance fee used to vary on program to program basis. Like in case of CDM, we need to pay uh, uh, registration fee that we need to pay is for small scale project up to 15 megawatt. For example, if it's a electricity generation project, then we need not to pay any registration fee, but at the time of verifications, once the credits, if you want to get it issued from any specific project, then up to 15,000 credits we need to pay 10 cents dollar, and more than 15,000 credits we need to pay uh, 20 cents dollar. While in case of VCS, it is again depending on the number of credits that you want to get issued. In case of gold standard, again it's a flat fee. In case of BCC, again it's a flat fee. So based on the program, it used to vary. It never depends on the type of technology or the country of origin. Based on the number of credits that we like in case of VCS only, we do have different bands. In gold standard also, GCC also we do have different bands. While in case of CDM and GS, a straightforward flat fee they used to apply. So these are all the different expense stream. And at the time of trading also, we need to pay some expenses or some fee if we go through the brokers, or if we go through, for example, through traders. So small expense stream is also used to get used to remain for the seller of credits at the selling point in time.
Okay. And so during the trading as well, like and how has the trading markets evolved? Like from where did it start of selling of one carbon credit to now where it is? And does it differ across all different of these standards, the trading?
Yeah, so trading is quite complicated subject in our industry because all the credit used to get traded on the OTC business model, that means over the counter, and there is no any regulatory body, there is no any exchange. So for the seller, it is again very critical stuff at what time they should sell the credits, to whom they should sell the credit, because first we need to transfer the credit, then we get the revenue for the same. And third thing is at what rate they should sell the credits. So these are the three typical questions which are there for the seller, because the carbon credit rate used to vary based on country of origin, based on type of technology, based on sustainable development goal the project is supporting, based on the credibility of the seller, based on the credibility of the third-party inspection company, credibility of auditor, credibility of or the quality of the marketing material that we are preparing, like brochures or photographs or videos related to the project, and if during the construction or after construction during the operation, if project had created any negative impact over the society, or maybe some legal issues are going on related to the project, or maybe some whatever the negative news is there, for example, for any specific project, then also the carbon credit rate used to vary. And again, since it's a market, so depending on the supply, since we are not the seller, for example, if it's Adani Green is not only the seller from India, or only Indian sellers are not there, but we need to compete with the other sellers who are based at China or Turkey or other African nations or Southeast Asian nations or Latin American nations. So we need to have all those specific information what is going on in the market on day-to-day basis, because then further geopolitical issues after this Russia-Ukraine war, the priority for the European companies. 90%, almost 90% of the credits used to be bought in the international carbon market by the European companies. Because of this Russia-Ukraine war and high prices of their energy, the prices or the priority had got impacted because of that specific reason. There are various variables which do exist in the trading system, and the expert companies, for example, like us, is very much required for the seller to position the credit, at what time they should sell the credit, at what rate they should sell the credit, and to finally to have a secure transaction, because all the buyers are located outside India, outside our Indian jurisdiction system, and it would be very tough. For example, if there is any problem or dispute or any risk that used to arise once we transfer the case, and finally if we do not get the payment. So all these specific factors need to be considered typically at the time of selling a credit.
Okay. So because it's over the counter whole market, is it now being positioned in a way that it can have like a stock market kind of thing, or how is it functioning?
So, since the voluntary carbon market is around 17, 18 years old, and to form an exchange, it's a very tough or challenging job. Because of this much many various variable factors like country of origin or technology and other stuff. So vintage effect is also there. If the credit is of year 2015 as compared to 2022,
Yeah.
for the same project, the rate used to vary. So because of, although the carbon credit means it's 1 ton of CO2
Yeah.
emission reduction from the atmosphere, but because of having these different variable factors, to have various different indexes, formation of various indexes is very, very tough, and that is why the for the existence or the probability to exist in exchange for any exchange is very, very tough, and that is not possible during last 17, 18 years. But maybe because of more technology intervention, it may happen. But as of now, we do not have any solution in the future.
Okay, okay. And coming to the more on the project side of it, now what are the different kind of projects which are currently being used? So more from the example point of view, that what are the different industries participating, and which are the industries which can participate but are still not participating in this whole thing?
Yes, so we have around 300, more than 300 different methodologies that have been approved by United Nations in the Convention on Climate Change, or specifically under the decision mechanism. And those methodologies do mention that various different kinds of projects can apply for getting the registration verification and ultimately so almost 170 different types of sectors can apply for the issuance for availing this carbon finance available in the international market. So first category is renewable energy. So the projects originated from solar sector or wind or hydro or maybe geothermal. All those different activities are allowed to get registered under the renewable energy domain. Then household and community-based projects, so like clean water systems or lighting, energy efficient lightings like LED lights, clean cooking system, biogas system, then the rural distributed solar systems are, these are the categories comes under the household and community-based projects. Thereafter, industries, so N2O disruption, the projects related to the natural gases, for example, are eligible. Carbon storage, carbon capture projects, refrigerant destruction, like I said, CPFC, then fugitive emissions, the reduction of the fugitive emissions. These are the different sectors which come from the industrial gases specifically. Thereafter, energy efficiency in the industry, so having fuel switch projects or maybe energy efficient boilers or furnaces, whatever the energy efficiency activity that we would be able to do for electric under the electric utilities or thermal utilities, all those projects are eligible to earn for carbon credits. Thereafter, waste disposal or waste management sector like doing recycling or maybe waste recovery or waste incineration and then recover the waste incineration specifically that whatever the waste is coming out from the municipal area, for example, and if you are incinerating and recovering the heat for the same, then those kind of waste disposal projects are eligible. Further comes the nature-based activities. So nature-based activities, that means the project comes from forestry sector, agricultural sector, or other sector. And the final sector is the transportation sector. So in the forestry sector, if you do any activities like afforestation or reforestation or reducing the forest degradation, all those projects are eligible for from the forestry sector. From the agricultural sector is livestock methane management, sustainable agricultural practices, nitrogen management related projects are eligible. And in case of transportation, we do have public transportation system like in India, Delhi Metro, BMRC, they do have applied for the registration for various projects, and they are really they are able to get the issuance on year-to-year basis and getting the credits to sell the same in the international voluntary market. So these are the various different factors. Then the sectors can be considered from aviation industry, from shipping industry. So any of the 7 greenhouse gases that we have discussed during the earlier conversation, if we do any business activity which helps to either avoid or absorb, are eligible to earn for carbon credit. Although we need to check for example, if we do identify if any industry or stakeholder do identify any project, then the second step would be to identify a specific methodology if it's available. If methodology is available, then we need to apply for registrations while going through all the documentation requirements. Otherwise, if methodology is not there, then we can apply very specifically in that in the criteria, then we can apply for the deviation of the methodology. Once we do all this important activity to identify methodology, second step is to prove the additionality. So additionality means what is the specific barrier which is there for the investor to apply funds to develop this project. So the additionality means we need to demonstrate the barrier. Maybe it's a political barrier to implement the project, maybe it's a management barrier, or maybe the technology related barrier, if it's for some its kind technology, if it's financial barrier. So whatever the best the most critical barrier that is there to get the project implemented, we need to first identify the same, then we need to demonstrate the additionality. Further, we need to establish the baseline, that is means in the absence of the project activity, how much emissions that were happening, and then determine the project emissions, leakage emissions, and once we do everything, then all the estimations related to determination of the carbon credit, we do apply for the registrations, then get annual verifications, and get the credits to be sold in the international voluntary market. So this is the whole process. Whatever the programs will do offer the same, this is the whole activity we need to do, and that is why it takes around around 8 months to 15 months to get the whole registration process done, and then verification also takes 6 to 8 months timeline. So the first it will do identify the project activity which is eligible for the carbon credit, provided it meets all the requirements to get it registered. So if the day zero is today, then it takes around one and a half year to 2 years to get the first revenue cycle, first revenue from the sale of carbon credits. So this is the different types of credits that we have discussed, and the timeline that should be considered to get the first revenue cycle from the project.
So this is I think, very important, because I was just going to come towards this as well, that what is the timeline, and I think that's very important to know as well from industry perspective, what all the concerns can come into picture to what is the timeline of it. And now coming to the India side of the story, what is the current policy that India has announced right now on this, and how will it help the market?
Yes. So as you know, India is third largest greenhouse gas emitter. So our position is very critical in reference to the Paris Agreement. In India, from 2005 to 2022, we were, or 2020 specifically, we were not obligated to reduce emissions because we come under the developing nation. As per the protocol, we were not we had not given the target to reduce the emissions. But under the Paris Agreement, now the targets have been given to us. So for any nation, for all industrialized or having large industrial base within the nation, all developing or developed nations are now going to form an emission trading scheme. So Indian government had also had thought in the same, and the Energy Conservation Act 2001 is going to get amended to become Energy Conservation Act 2022. So it had been passed from the lower parliament, lower house within the Indian approval system. Uh, the laws approval system, for example. So the upper parliament, we call it as the Lok Sabha, had passed this a specific amendment during the monsoon season. Now the upper parliament, that is the Rajya Sabha, need to pass it to, for example, if they will do it during the winter season. So by the end of this calendar year, we will be able to have the amended law. Obviously, final stage would be to get it through from the President of India. So once we do get it through, then we will be having the domestic emission trading scheme regulations within India. And as you know, for all the regulations related to the climate change, we do have one nodal agency or nodal ministry called as Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. But it is very interesting fact that Ministry of Power through Bureau of Energy Efficiency is doing all this activity related to the formation of domestic emission trading scheme in India. So, we do have two schemes that do exist these days. One is the perform achievement trade, and another one is the renewable purchase obligation RECs which are available. So, this PAT scheme, perform achievement trade scheme, is related to giving the specific energy consumption target to the large energy consumers within India. And the credits which is tradable under that specific scheme is called as Energy Saving Certificate ESERs. And under the RPO Act, Renewable Purchase Obligation Act, we do have a commodity and a commodity called as renewable energy certificates. And the target had been given to various obligated entities to have energy mix specifically from the renewable energy that they are able to meet. Then they can buy and sell these RECs. So as per the Act, the one major thing that had been mentioned there is this ESERs and RECs scheme would get merged to form a bigger emission trading scheme, and whatever the credits which are available in the form of ESERs and RECs would get migrated from these schemes to form carbon credit. And again, carbon credit definition will remain the same. 1 ton CO2 emission reduction from the atmosphere would be 1 carbon credit. And now, once the Act will do get passed through from the upper parliament and finally from President of India, this Bureau of Energy Efficiency will do come up with the whole procedures and policies related to determination of the obligated entities, that means the buyers who are the obligated entities means the large emitters or large or mid or small emitters. So during initial stages, how many would be how many emitters would be considered is the critical question that we need to consider in the future. Thereafter, who will be the buyer, who will be the seller, what would be the price regulation, where the credits will get traded either only through OTC or maybe through exchange or maybe the mix of the same. Then who will be the regulatory body related to this? So obviously we do foresee that Bureau of Energy Efficiency should take this charge to form to become a regulatory body within India. So all these different critical questions are there, which will do get their answer in your future, say in 1 to 2 year timeline. But yeah, that is an important step in India, because for any nation, you see there are two options: either to offer carbon tax mechanism or either to offer emission trading scheme. So for the nations, the bigger nations like us, it is very tough to collect the tax, then deploy that specific tax in the form of debt equity or maybe in the form of grant to the various sectors. But the emission trading scheme used to make the private sector very efficient enough to reduce, motivated enough to reduce their emissions, and then buy and sell the credits to meet their target. So this is another thing that has been mentioned in the amended act is any voluntary buyer are also allowed to buy the credits for their voluntary pledges that they have taken. Further, the critical questions that are very important to get considered is how this domestic emission trading scheme will do work hand in hand with two different markets the two different the two markets like Article 6.2 carbon market, Article 6.4 carbon market will take their position in next 1 to 3 year timeline. And then how this specific domestic emission trading scheme will do work with the international voluntary carbon market. So this is also one of the critical questions because since we do have our own emission reduction targets and we also Indian corporates also want to take maximum benefit of the climate finance in the form of selling carbon credits in the compliance market, that means to Article 6 market and to the international voluntary market, that is going to be very critical. So all these different aspects related to the domestic emission trading scheme will get their full clarity or policies and procedures in next 1 to 2 year timeline, and then you'll be able to check how stringent will be the emission trading scheme during initial few years, and obviously in coming next 48 years, as you know, we Indian government has declared that we want to become a net zero country by year 2070. So we do have the next 48 years, and we need to align this domestic emission trading scheme with the international target to become a net zero country by year 2070 in next 48 years. That is going to be very critical job for or critical ambition for the government to meet through formation of the domestic emission trading scheme. One important critical point that I want to tell at this point in time is related to the confusion that had been created after getting the statement from Ministry from the Ministry of Power during the parliamentary session that India is looking to ban export of carbon credits. So if you see the other emission trading schemes that do exist, one is like European Union or maybe South Korea or maybe in New Zealand so all these schemes they also do not allow import and export of carbon credits because they want their own domestic emission trading scheme to be very efficient enough, but different emission trading schemes to have economical procurement of the credits are now looking to create a tie-up like Switzerland government, Switzerland ETS and European Union ETS. They have got tie-up the credits which are originated from EU ETS or maybe from the Switzerland ETS. They are fungible. They can be traded in between the two different markets very easily. So such kind of things are going to happen. Then considering this specific statement, this specific statement is very important if we do consider the domestic emission trading scheme and Article 6 market, because in under Article 6 market, we need to do corresponding adjustment if we do sell the credit to any other nation. So that is very important. The banning of export statement is very important related to Article 6 market and domestic emission ETS, but the bigger market which exists as of now for the Indian sellers is the international voluntary markets. Under international voluntary markets, there is no issue related to the corresponding adjustment or double counting because whatever the credits that we are selling to the buyers, for example, like Delta Airlines, they do not have any obligation to report whatever the credits that they had bought to meet their voluntary credits. So that means US government is not going to consider the credits that have been sold under the international voluntary carbon market, and so since the credits will do will do help India's NDC to meet its own target, and US government is not going to add those credits in their national emission trading system. So that means there is no any double counting issue, there is no any requirement of corresponding adjustment, and that is why there is no any impact on the international voluntary market. This statement is very important to be considered because India is the largest exporter, largest supplier of the carbon credits during last 10 years, and Considering this statement with a misinterpretation will do create big problem for the investors within India, internationally, and for the sellers. Again, it is going to create a high impact. So that is the clarity that they are for the stakeholders related to the carbon impact.
That's quite fascinating to know that. I never knew that India was the biggest exporter of carbon credits uh, in this whole ecosystem. It is very fascinating to know. And this sounds very interesting, and quite a lot of things that we is also picking up to work around as well to make sure that the domestic market can be developed. But if we have to broadly define what are as well as, especially from the learnings of the West of whatever carbon markets have come into picture, what are some things that have not worked and what are some things that have failed in this whole ecosystem that we need to be wary about?
So it depends on like in the act, if I normally mention how the carbon market will do work, either if it would be cap and trade mechanism or some other forms and format of the market that will do come. So so in near future, in next 1 to 2 year timeline, we will be able to check what different part, what specific part government of India will do take to form carbon market in India, and then only based on the specific option that we will do opt, the government will do opt, we will be able to check what are the good and bad things that had happened in the similar markets which had opted for the specific guidelines or the model regulator same. So as of now, it will be very tough to answer because we do not have any policy and processes in place, and no specific clarity has been given by any government organization in India. So in near future, it would be easy to comment on the efficiency and inefficiency of the different sort of markets that we have.
No, that's a very fair call and very fair point as well. And I think that brings us to the last question. It's on the lines of now, this is a very broad subject that you just mentioned from developing registration to trading of the whole thing. Now, what is the exact skill set required that anyone would need to be able to work in this? This brings us to the whole understanding the future concept of it as well.
Yes. Like in our organization, EPI Energy Services Limited, we do look for the people if they do have technical background. So specifically, if someone has done Bachelor of Engineering from electrical, mechanical, or chemical stream, they are the most suitable candidates because to understand how the technology works, how to determine the project emission, liquid emission, or the baseline emission, it is very much required to understand the technology. So that is why the technical background is always one of the most added advantage for any professional.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you for tuning into the podcast. Do subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform and follow us on all social media channels. For more details about the Climate Center for Cities and registration on Climate Practitioners India Network, click on the link in the show notes. The episode is conceptualized and produced by Punit Gandhi. A big thank you to the whole team at C-Cube and NIUA for supporting the development of the podcast. Stay tuned for the next episode.